So here in this practical session, we are going to see a practical for functions in C. So in earlier video, we have already seen the simple program on function where we have created one display function, and in that display function we have displayed one hello simple message that this is the function part, like that. So here in this session, we are going to see a function which is going to have some parameter. So for that, I have just created the new project with the name function fun.c. I will create hash include to header file. I will include to header file include .h and okay. And now this is my main method with no return type, that is void main. And here in this I'm going to call one method called display only, and but that display method is going to do some addition, means it having a mechanism to add two variable. Okay, so first of all I'll create a non-parameterized method, okay, or a function. So and it is not going to return anything, so that function prototype I'm going to write over here. So remember, function prototype should come before declaring this main method. So here, because this function is not going to return anything, so I'm going to write it void only, and the name for that function is display with no parameter. Now no parameter means inside this parenthesis I'm not going to mention anything, means not any variable or data type. So this is the function definition, and inside we will call that function. So first of all I'll write the two method predefined function, that is clr scer and get ch, and inside between this I'm going to call this function called display. That's it. Now the definition for this display method I'm going to write after the main function. So void display, and inside this I'm going to write the mechanism, and the mechanism is we will declare three variable a, b and c of integer type, and we will save some value, means we will assign a as 2, b as 5, and we'll store the addition of a plus b inside a c variable. Remember, the logic is whatever the addition, whatever the process is there, that should be come on the left right hand side of the equals to, and whatever value you are going to store in a variable, that variable should come on the left hand side. So this equals to is nothing but your assignment operator. So we are assigning this a plus b value into c variable, and we will display value over here only. So printf here is, and because this is the integer, so we have to write %d and value is c. That's it. Save this code, compile it and run it. So you will get the output as 7. So 2 plus 5 is nothing but the 7. So here if you observe, this function is having no return type. That means whenever this compiler start executing your main function, it starts from the first line. So it will clear the screen first, then it will call the display function. So your function control or your program control will come over here inside this display function. It will allocate 3 memory allocation of the integer type. It will store a as a 2, 5 in b, and do the addition of a plus b, and it will store inside the c variable. and finally it is going to display the C value, and finally it will come back to the main function, and finally it will execute the get ch till you will press any key. That means it should accept some character, then only will come out of the output screen. So this is the function with no parameter and no return type. Now we will see what this same program with parameter. Now what we will do, instead of writing or assigning variable over here in function directly, we define two variable inside main. Okay, so first of all I'll remove this thing. I'll remove complete thing so you'll not get confused. Okay, I'll remove this thing and I'll declare two variable inside main function only. So int, if you want to change the variable name, so I'll write x and y, and I'll assign value for x. I'll take same value 2 and 5. You can take any other value also. Now I want to pass this 2 value that is present in x and y variable, and I want to pass this 2 value to this function, display function, and then do the addition. So for that I have to change the prototype for my function called display. Now I want to give 2 variable to this display function. So for that I have to make this function as a parameterized function. That means this function should accept 2 variable of integer type. So for that I have to mention that it should accept 2 variable of integer type, and I'll declare a variable name as a and b. Now remember, this is your function variable a and b, and this is your normal main function variable. So for these two things we are having two different memory allocation. Okay, then whenever you are having a function with the parameter, that means whenever you call this function called display from the main function, you have to pass 2 variable or 2 value of integer type. So here when you call the display function, you have to pass 2 value of integer type. So here, because we have declared the variable x and y, and I have assigned the value for x and y also, so I'll pass x and y in this. So indirectly I'm passing 2 and 5 over here. You can write directly also. I'll show you that program also here. So now when you are going to pass this thing, so here also to write, it's going to accept 2 variable. Okay, so here I'll declare one more variable called c, and inside c, because we are having a and b value over here. Now remember, when you pass this x and y respectively, it will going to allocate, or it will get stored inside the variable a and b. So x is going to store inside a and y value is going to store inside a b. If you change the position, that means if you write over here y and x, then y value is going to store inside a variable and x will store in b. So remember, when passing any kind of a variable or parameter, when you call the function, please remember in which sequence you are going to pass that value. So here again we done with the addition, and I'll just print the value for the addition is, and because it's an integer, so use %d and value for c. Save it, compile it, and run the call. You will get the answer as a 7 only. But remember, here the logic is different, that instead of defining 2 values, okay, directly inside a function, we having that value in main, and we are passing that value when we call the method. So instead of creating this variable, you can directly pass the value while calling the function. So I'll pass some different value 5 comma 4. So instead of creating a variable, storing a value and then passing it, you can directly pass the value. So I'll save it again, compile it once again, sorry, and run the code. So we'll get the answer as per that. So 5 plus 4 is nothing but the 9. Okay, so this is called as a parameterized function, because while using this function we are having a parameter. Okay, now let's see a next program which having a return type. So here we have written write a void. Now void means it is not going to return anything. So first of all I'll show you this thing with the main. Okay, I'll remove everything. Okay, and here I'm having a simple display method, that is printf and hello. Okay, and you will get the output as it is. See, hello. Okay, now here I have written the main return type as a void. Now I want to change the return type as a integer. Now return type means what type of value this particular function is going to return. Now as you know, this main is nothing but a function only. Okay, and now the return type for this function is int. So here you have to return something at the end. So here we have to use a keyword return, and remember what type of value is this function is going to return? Int. So in int, because see, this is your main function, so actually this function is not going to return any value to other function. Okay, so it should not return anything. So in integer language, 0 means nothing. Okay, so it should return, but here instead of void you have written something else, some other data type, so you have to return that way. So I'll save it once again with the control F2, and finally I'll save it like this, F2, and then run the code. See, you will get the answer. Now if you make it as a float, so your return type could be anything, any data type. Okay, float. So here you have to return a float value, and as you know, float value means 0.0 likewise. Okay, so now what I'll do, I'll make it as a int only. Okay, and it's return 0. Okay, and I'll write one method, one function, user defined function, which is going to return something. So here instead of void display, I'll use int display with the parameter int a comma int b semicolon. Just remember, whenever you are mentioning the prototype, give the semicolon over here, and here we will call that method, that display to value. I'm passing that to value over here only, 5,7, and I'm going to write the definition for display. So int display, again int a comma int b, and here one more variable, that is in C, and in C we are going to display the store the addition. Okay, a plus b, but I don't want to display my answer in function. I want to display my answer in main method. Okay, so as you know, after successful execution of this function, every function, it is going to return back, the program control is going to return back to your main. That means if here you have call the function, so after execution of this function it will return back to the same line, and then rest of the line will get executed as it is. Okay, so what I have to do, I don't want to show this C answer, that means the answer of this a plus b in this function. I have to pass this value for C, okay, back to the main function, and in here I want to display that. Okay, so remember here I have required one more container, that is the variable, and I will collect the answer here. Okay, so r equals to display, so whatever the answer will come from this function, it is going to store inside this variable. So how to get that value? Using return. Okay, now remember, when you are allowed to write return, when you are having other than void return type. If you have a void return type, you are not allowed to return anything. Okay, so return, what value we have to return? Here we are not going to return 0 because we have something to return now. So value for C, we are going to return back from where we have called the function. So here we have called the function. Whenever you call the function, it will go to this function definition. It will see this is the parameterized function. So 5 and 7 respectively, it will store the value for A and B over here, and finally it is going to do the addition. A plus B, answer is going to store inside C, and we are returning C. So from where you have called this method, again that value is going to return there only, and it is going to store inside the R, and finally here we have to display the R variable. Printf addition is %d and R value. So save this, compile it and run it. So you will get the answer for 5 plus 7 as a 12. So remember here what we have done, we pass two value from the main function, we do the addition in display function, we return back that value, the addition value, to the main, and inside main we have displayed the answer for this. Okay, so here all over about the everything about your function, basic function with parameter, without parameter, with return type, without return type in C programming. So thank you for now.